Apparently Claudia doesn't like stories. What? Are you tired? Do I not entertain you, Claudia? Well, welcome everybody to the show. I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. Of course, it is Sunday night. This is the Bedtime Stories From Beyond, and I'm your host, Brent Thomas. And I don't know what else to say other than I hope you're all ready, because it's time for bed. And hello, everybody. I see all the hellos in here. Hi, Eddie. Hi, Deb. Let me see. Where else am I missing it? And Claudia does like stories. Good. I'm glad you do. I hope because you're in the right place for that. But if you don't like stories, you're in the wrong place for that. These are, I don't like the term stories even because I prefer to call them encounters because they are represented as real. I never bring you just stories to the show because stories can be anything. They can be fiction, they can be nonfiction, they can be, fantasy or whatever. So, it's fiction or nonfiction, but you know what I'm saying. They are represented as true. The stories that I bring to you, and I'll be the first one to read a story and go, no, that's bunk. I don't ever want to bring you guys stories that are, not represented as fact, at least, on the paper, but I can't be for sure that they all are factual, but I know all I can do is just weigh in with my intuition and tell you that makes sense to me or that doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, welcome everybody to the show. Don and I had a great time yesterday on the show last night. We had a great time yesterday at the Bigfoot Roundup in Spokane Valley, and that was a lot of fun. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I got some indigestion tonight. Oh, geez. I don't know. So it feels like something's sideways in there, and don't you just love it? Everybody's human, and I'm sure you're absolutely thrilled to tune in and hear about my body. But if I grimace, and it's just that I don't know. I'm just dealing with something here. So anyway, I'm still doing the show because I love doing the show, and I couldn't dream of not being here doing the show for you guys. So anyway, I'll just grin and smile it out. So anyway, let's get going. I had a great meeting today with one of our listeners who traveled through the area. It was a lot of fun to sit down and talk with her and her significant other. It was a great time. Thank you guys for meeting up with me. It was really cool to have an opportunity to say hello in person. And it was really wonderful. And I hope you guys make it back soon and we can do it all over again. So if you're ever in my neck of the woods, ladies and gentlemen, just let me know. I'd be happy to meet any of you guys that happen through the area here. So that's always on the table. So let's see. I got some stories pulled up for you guys as I'm sweating my way through this. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a whiner, but it's just so I'm just really not comfortable. Let's see. I got a story pulled up right here. And this one's actually really small. I don't know why I didn't read this before. All right, let's read this one, I guess. It looks, I guess I didn't. I wonder why. It's very short. Perhaps we got a phone call at the end of the show where this was pulled up, so I'll read it to you now. It says, my friend that lived across the street, Amy, she also had things happen to her in her house as well. I was over there one afternoon, and we were sitting in her living room watching television, and all of a sudden what looked like a hand slammed into the window across from us. We both screamed at the same time and went running out the door. And we stopped in the front yard and thought maybe it was just a bird. And upon further investigation, no bird or feathers could be found in front of that window. As I stated in my first story, there were a lot of kids for us to play with, and there were a lot of teenage boys that lived in the neighborhood too. And we put a volleyball net up in our yard, and every Sunday, almost the whole neighborhood would be over there to play. And we'd cook out on the grill, and different people would bring different things, and Amy had gone home to get something out of her room on one of these Sundays, and all of a sudden we heard her scream. At the same time that she screamed, her basement light turned on. About 5 of the teenage boys went running over there to make sure that she was all right. And by the time they ran across the street, she had run from up the stairs and was halfway through her yard When they asked her what was wrong, all she said was that something or someone was in her house. Upon them immediately going into her house and searching, they found nothing but the basement light on. My parents went out of town for the night, and I decided to stay with my friend Wendy. She lived on the main street that you turn off on to get to my street. We played about all day and ate that evening and took a bath, and we were getting ready for bed, and all of a sudden I got this terrible pain in my stomach. You can't write this stuff. Jesus, how come this would be coming up now? Terrible pain in my stomach and was so nauseous. Her dad tried everything that they had and nothing was working. Then at about 2 a.m., I called my next door neighbor, Donna, and asked her if I could come to her house for the night because I was so sick. She agreed and told me she would open the kitchen door and cut on the light for me, so off I went through the yard, and when I got beside Wendy's house, there was a huge butterfly bush, and it started shaking violently. Now, I'm not talking about bird or squirrel moving the bush. I mean shaking to the point that blooms and leaves were falling off by the handfuls. Well, I ran as fast as I could through the yard and across the street to Donna's house, where she was waiting for me in the kitchen. And when I ran through the door out of breath, she asked what was wrong, and I told her, and she told me it was just my imagination and for me to lay down on the sofa and go to sleep. I don't know whether it was the shock of the bush being out of Wendy's house, but when I finally caught my breath, I was no longer sick to my stomach. So there you go, another experience on Kimberly Street. Hope you enjoyed it. Like always, thanks for reading. Well, maybe I need a shaken bush then. I don't know. I'm just a little verklempt. That's Yiddish, I guess, so just so you know. It's not a cusser. I'm not cussing on the portal. Oh, man. Let me open some more here. Let's see. Okay, I got two more open. Yeah, that one too. Just talking to myself. Speak quietly amongst yourself while I work this out. Okay, and there's some more open. Hold on. There you go. I'm hydrated now. This one comes out of Nevada, ladies and gentlemen. On Christmas Day 2006, I got a phone call that sunk my heart. It was my mother informing me that my grandmother had passed away early that morning in her Henderson, Nevada home. I was living at the time in Southern California, only about 2.5 hours away from her. My wife and I went about our Christmas morning rituals for breakfast and then presents, and after all the presents were open, we left the kids with my mother-in-law and headed for Nevada. The mood was very somber at my grandmother's home. Everyone tried to be upbeat, telling stories, etc., but we were all very down. The whole day I had this strong feeling that I needed to see her one last time. The feeling was so strong that I couldn't let it go, and she was going to be cremated the next day. My grandfather had made it very clear that he wanted no one to bother her, as he put it, so I had my mother arrange a special viewing just for me before she was cremated. I got to the funeral home at about 4 p.m. on December 26th and was greeted by a very nice man who let me into a small chapel on the property, and inside was totally empty except for grandmother's body lying on the stretcher at the foot of the pulpit. I know this whole deal may sound really strange to some, but if you ever lost someone that you loved, by the way, my grandmother and I were extremely close, then you can understand you need some form of closure. And for me, I felt I needed to see her one last time. The man led me to the end of the pews and respectfully put his head down and crossed his arms. I felt like I floated the rest of the way to her, almost like it was a dream, and none of this was real, and I remember shedding a few tears and kissing her forehead. Then, as clear as day, I heard my name being called from behind me. I turned to look over my shoulder, and there was my grandmother, sitting in the first pew, smiling at me. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. I remember looking over at the gentleman who had brought me there, hoping that he was seeing the same thing I was, but he was still looking at the floor with his hands crossed respectfully. I remember looking back at her, and she was still there, and I suddenly felt a feeling of love and warmth overtook me and tears streamed down my face. I knew she was in a better place and she would be watching over me. After what seemed like a very long time, she was suddenly gone. And I told the gentleman thank you and left. To this day, I'm not really sure if it was just all a figment of my imagination or she was really there with me. I like to believe that she was. I believe she was. That's certainly a wonderful, wonderful thing to have happen. Absolutely glorious. All right, so the next one is coming from California. Let's see what's going on in California. As some of you may know, reading my previous stories, I've recently moved to Los Angeles with my fiance and little brother, and you would also know that about the new house that I live in and I'm currently living in, and the things that have taken place in those houses. And I couldn't tell you what they're referring to. Allegedly, they've submitted many other stories to this site, so I don't know. It says, well, I guess that isn't enough for me because I have to deal with them at work now. I'm a mechanic at a very popular and very busy motorcycle shop. I can't name it, but every day myself and 6 other guys pull through maybe 25 plus bikes, and I'm in a 10 to 11 hour day, and that doesn't seem like much, but we don't just do repairs, we do custom paint jobs and other custom jobs, so it's quite time consuming. So, in other words, it's ridiculously busy, and we don't have the time to mess around. However, someone seems to have the time to pull pranks on us. This past Monday, May 5th, was busy as hell. The showroom was having a huge sale, and for some reason, the owner thought that we should have a sale on a few things in the shop, which was absolutely ridiculous because, as I said, it was already busy as hell. It was around noon, and I decided to take an hour to go to Jack in the Box, and when I get back to my work area, all of my drawers in my toolbox are open, and every single one of my sockets were scattered across the floor. I yelled over at Rod and told him if he needs to borrow something not to make such a mess. I used a little more colorful words, though, because I wasn't too impressed. He told me he wasn't even near my bench, and he was doing airbrush on the whole morning. Well, the pranks went on for the rest of the day, nothing as bad as before, just missing tools, and I would turn around to find the drawers were open when I knew that they were closed. Finally, it was time to close up for the night. Since I'm the manager of the maintenance department, I have to stay an hour after everyone else has left to do invoices and whatnot, and I was at my bench pricing out a few things a customer wanted when I heard someone coughing. It was coming from the long hallway at the rear of the shop that leads to the dumpsters. A special code is needed to open that door and can only open from the inside, and plus, it makes a really annoying creak followed by a loud slam when it's open, so I was a little shaken to find no one there when I went to check it out. I walked down the corridor to see if the door was propped open at all. Nope, it was closed tight. I just turned around and head back to my bench when I heard the coughing sound again, only this time it was coming from the shop. I jogged down the hall and into the shop to see who was there, and no one was there. This is when I just stood there and went, great, now I have to deal with them at work too. I went over to my bench where I had left my invoices, which were very important and needed to be put in the computer right away, and they were missing. Well, I gave up. I had had enough, so I grabbed my coat and left. Didn't finish sweeping, didn't power wash the floors, nothing. I got home and told my fiance and brother about what had happened, and Chris thought this was hilarious because he usually gets all the annoying ghosts pulling pranks on him, so he got his little cheap shots in, and that was it. The next day I got to work, and when I turned on the shop lights, I couldn't believe my eyes. Everyone's tools were spilled all over the floor, and a hose that I had rolled up nice and neat before I left was pulled out with water pouring out of it. Finally, I had enough, so I started yelling at the spirit. After yelling at it, I began cleaning up the tools and putting them back where they belonged, and as I was cleaning, I swear I heard a very mischievous chuckle coming from the corridor. Yeah, I said, hilarious. I'm having the time of my life over here, so funny. Basically sounding like a retard if someone came down and saw me arguing with nobody. I'm sure that would have looked a little weird. The rest of the day wasn't so bad. until closing time came and I was alone again, and I started to smell the faint smell of cigarettes. I followed the smell to, you guessed it, the corridor leading to the dumpsters. And yep, you guessed it again, nothing. I turned back to my area to finish sweeping, and I noticed at the corner of my eye, the missing invoices from the previous days were neatly stacked on my workbench. I leaned on my broom and smiled. Excuse me. And I guess I finally got through to the spirit, and he felt bad or something. So, since last week, nothing but out of the ordinary has happened, other than the power outage that happened when two other mechanics got into a yelling match. Was the spirit angry that they were arguing? I don't know. I'm just going to say it was a coincidence. Until next time, God bless. That's a pretty good story. Huh. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Again, I'm sorry, my energy level is absolutely really low right now. I'm not feeling extraordinarily well, so just sweating through it, ladies and gentlemen, but it's good for me. It's all a matter of cleansing. So let's this one, was this it? Okay, I think this was right. Yeah. So the next one's coming from Oregon. Big, you were so right. Did you see? What are you talking about? I'm looking. I'm not sure what's going on in the chat room. It's always an adventure to see what they're talking about. No, I don't think he did. I don't think it was Don that did this. I think I just ate something that kind of went sideways on me. So, you know. Oh, you guys always send love to me. I feel love all the time when I'm doing the show. It's one of the reasons I love doing the show, is because of the energy that it gives and produces. So it's not that. It's just something's just really unsettled, and it's just the way it is. It happens to all of us every once in a while. Well, today's my day. All right, so let's read this one. It's from Oregon. Says, I haven't, blah, 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 blah. Okay. This is what's been happening for me. This happened to me only a few days ago, or a few hours ago, rather. I was walking from my bus stop to my house, which I would say is a good quarter of a mile. I kept getting this weird feeling like something was watching me. Well, wait, let me backtrack to last month. Okay. I went to a concert that I shouldn't have, and there was a lot of hate and death thoughts. And at one concert, I saw two very tall figures staring at me. They followed me home and joined my beast in tormenting me. I don't know what this guy's obviously got an ongoing dialogue here that we're not apparently aware of, but okay. It says, so back to today, I could feel a pressure all around me, which hurt at times, and was like suffocating. I got to my house and no one was there. I didn't like being home alone much anymore because my experiences happen most often when I'm alone. I had to go on my computer to work some things out for school, so I was sitting there when I heard someone calling my name. It was a whisper at first, but it grew louder, calling, "Free us." Oh, I can do this. Hold on. Free us. Free us. I didn't know what it was. Then my beastly voice broke into the call. Beastly voice broke into this call. This calling. He laughed his normal hideous laugh, and said, "Are you going to free them, Teresa?" I couldn't take anymore and ran out of the computer room, but stopped in the hallway. The beastly one was at the end of the hallway. He was facing the front door, so his side was to me. My room is next to the computer room, so I backed up slowly so he wouldn't see me and hurt me or anything. And there's also a mirror at the end of my hallway, and I saw 3 figures in it. One of my beastly fellow and 2 from the concert. I hid in my room until I heard the front door open. I jumped up and looked to see if anyone was home, but no one was, I think was. I figured one of them must have opened the door, and Michael suddenly came to mind, and I called out to him, "Michael, please make them leave. Make them just go away." I heard heavy breathing on the other side of my bedroom door, and then it was silent. I could hear the rain falling, but it wasn't raining, and I can still hear "Free Us" in my head. I just think this is just a bizarre story. Here's one that's, ladies and gentlemen, I don't really buy. I don't know. It sounds like she's got a whole narrative going on here that's very peculiar. I don't know. I'm not even going to read the rest. There's like one paragraph left, and I think it's just garbage. So I don't know. I don't think it's real. Sorry, but I got to stick to my convictions on this stuff. I'm not going to waste your time with fantasies. All right, California is coming up next. It's been a week since we had any activity in our house. My fiance hasn't heard any strange noises from the main floor bathroom, and I haven't had any experiences with electronics turning on or off. But my brother has been telling me a few things that have given me reason to believe the little girl that haunts or haunted has not left yet. Last weekend, I told the spirit that she couldn't stay anymore. I told her that she needed to be with Jesus and that she asked for her forgiveness and asked Jesus to save her and she would be free. I haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary over the past few days, so I figured I managed to get her to cross over. The past few nights, my brother Chris says that he has woken up to find a little girl standing in the doorway of his room. He isn't sure if he's imagining it because he's so tired, but he didn't know if he was awake or dreaming, but he says it is creepy nonetheless. I found this to be quite interesting, so I asked him if I could bunk with him for the night and see if I experienced the same thing. Last night is a night that I'll remember for a long time. I slept on his floor, and at about 2:40 a.m., I was wide awake, and Chris was too, because a few minutes after my eyes shut open, Chris very questionably said my name, almost as if he knew I was awake, but didn't know for sure, if that makes any sense at all, and I told him I was awake. We thought this was weird, waking up at the exact same moment. Before I woke up, I had a dream I was in the basement, not doing anything, just standing there. Chris says he had the exact same dream. We couldn't help ourselves. We had to go down to the basement to see what the hell was so significant about it. And when we got to the main floor, we felt the temperature drop quite a bit, and we heard the basement door creak. We looked at each other and went around the corner to the basement door, and we always shut the door before bed, and it was wide open now. We went downstairs pretty scared, and when we got to the bottom, we saw something on the floor, and we couldn't quite make it out, so Chris turned the light on. On the middle of the basement floor, there was a pile of 3 or 4 daisies and a small wooden cross that laid on top of it. Chris and I looked at each other quite confused, and Chris shook his head and said, "F this," and went back to bed. I stayed down there to try to figure out what was going on. I grabbed a chair and sat down and stared at the flowers on the floor. I stared and stared until I saw a shadow out of the corner of my eye. I looked up, and there was the girl. She had become comfortable enough to show herself to me, and I was excited, smiled at her, and asked her if she was leaving us, and honest to God, she smiled and lifted her hand up and started to wave. But then she disappeared completely. I was happy, but quite overwhelmed at what had just happened. I knew this was her way of saying goodbye, and I knew she was off to a better place. I went back to his room and got into my sleeping bag, and Chris asked me what took so long. I told him nothing and fell right to sleep. This morning after I woke up, I went down into the basement to grab the daisies and the cross, and I took them outside and planted the daisies in a little spot in the garden, and then stuck the cross into the dirt right behind them. I felt a little sad because this girl had become almost like a friend in a way. She would always want me to play with ball with her and play all kinds of funny pranks on my brother, and it's going to be tough not having her around, but it's a good thing for her to be where she belongs. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's kind of a pretty intense dialogue, but is it possible? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Anything's possible, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't know. If you're ever reading a story and it just kind of hits you sideways, like, come on, really? Then you got to question it. And the one before this last one definitely was hitting me that way, like, no, come on. Some people love to create their own little Twilight situations and try to get people to believe them, and that's fine. I understand. But the ones like this one, it's a pretty bold narrative, I guess. I don't know how this is all whether or not it's for sure real, but it's at least bordering on the plausible. I'm not quite convinced that all of that happened, but I don't need to be. I mean, this isn't about make Brent believe. It's just that's just my 2 cents. But I guess it's up to you guys. If you believe that could be real, then maybe it is. It sounds more of what you would experience in a dreamlike state than an awake state, but anything's possible. All right, this one's North Carolina. North Carolina. I'm not sure what order some of these things had occurred in, and just that they really did happen. These are the events that happened in my bedroom and my guest room, which is now transformed into a nursery. And what I think is the first time this happened, it was an average night in the fall. I remember getting spooked thinking I might have seen a shadow person. Then I dismissed it, thinking it might have just been something the fan was blowing and the effects on the kerosene heater. I fell fast asleep, 1L, F-E-L. I fell fast asleep, no problem, at the crack of dawn. I woke up for no reason. I stretched and sat up to see the clock around my sweetie. It was the clock around my sweetie. It was 5:16. I snuggled back into my pillow, and suddenly I can't move or breathe. I felt as if I could just get Jeff awake, it would all stop. Slowly, and I mean very slowly, I crept my hand up the bed towards Jeff's face. I started feeling like I would pass out at any second, seeing stars. The only thing I could think to do was pinch Jeff's face. I hadn't the strength for anything else. The only sound I could make was a faint croaking, as it felt like there was no air in my lungs and they were sucking in on themselves as I tried to breathe. Finally, I get to Jeff's face and start pinching. He woke up saying, "What the F?" And as soon as he awoke, I gasped in a deep breath and lay my head down, and Jeff asked if I was okay, and I said, "I am now. I love you." And I said a little prayer to God to protect me from evil and fell fast asleep. The next one was stranger than that one. It was a cold night in winter. I was struggling under my favorite comforter in bed, dozing, looking at the pattern the kerosene heater makes on the ceiling, and out of the corner of my eye, I catch shadows moving. I get a creepy feeling. I roll to my side and face the shadows, and they continue to move. Pooh Kitty comes in and parks himself at my feet and stares where I am staring at the movement, and the movement seems to cease. I fall asleep, forgetting to pray. I wake up a few hours later and notice Jeff has finally come to bed, and I roll back to space at the pattern. I don't know why it says space. This isn't written really well. The pattern on the ceiling again, and I notice something strange. There's a fiery eye in the lantern. I was fairly sure there wasn't an eye there before. I stared at it and started to feel really weird, like I was being watched. Pardon the pun. And suddenly, there was another eye. I got the feeling of dread as it seemed to wink at me. I covered my head and prayed to God to protect me and Jeff from all evil, and I eventually fell asleep. I woke once more, needing to use the little girl's room, and saw the eyes were now longer in the pattern on the ceiling. The heater was still burning along, and it hadn't moved. There was another time I saw the shadows darting around my room. It was winter, and the heater was burning as usual in the hall in front of one of the doors of our room, and I was having a really weird dream about being at an entrance to a cave that was supposed to be like the gates of hell or something, and there was drums and people I knew from high school that were real partiers were going into it. I talked to someone there but didn't recall what about, and suddenly something had my leg. I woke up and something really did have my leg. I saw a robed figure at the side of my bed and one at the foot of my bed, and both had a grip on me as if they were fighting over me. I scream, "What is it? What is it? Get it off me!" And the figure at the side of the bed backs away and disappears. The one is still at the foot of the bed, and I am sliding, and I continue to scream, "What is it? What is it? Get it off of me!" And Jeff wakes up yelling, I don't know. What is it? Get off of her." He didn't see it, but he thought it was pretty funny thinking it was a sleepwalking thing or something. But I didn't. The next day I noticed I had scratch marks on my left ankle, and the one robed figure had a hold of, and Jeff did think that was strange. We looked all around and in the bed and found nothing that could have done that to me, and after that I prayed many nights that God would send those beings back to wherever they should be. I no longer see shadows like those anymore, and when I see a shadow, it has a human form and disappears when I look straight at it. Unlike these that still would flit in front of my eyes. The last thing that happened involved disturbing my sleep. Hadn't happened in the spare bedroom when I was 8 months pregnant. What? Oh, it had happened when she was 8 months pregnant. Sorry. I was sleeping in the spare room because I would snore and Jeff would wake me up to stop. And plus, I enjoy sprawling out and getting really comfy in my own bed. Well, it seems I would always have really weird dreams in this room. A lot of times they would be strange, bad dreams, and as I used to have in my bedroom before I got a dream catcher. But one night I had a weird dream, and it did involve an old hag. Although I can't remember the rest of the dream, she was in the room with me in the dream, and I stopped breathing. When I continued not breathing, I woke up and could breathe fine. But I was well aware that I was not breathing as I slept. My heart was racing, and I fought to catch my breath. Now that room is a nursery, and I'm putting a dream catcher next to my son's crib, and I'm going to bless it and block it off spiritually, as I have in my bedroom. Oh, an update on my parents' house from one of my previous stories. The shadow man I spoke of that wanders from the back room to the hall, where the bathroom is encountered my mother. Oh, okay. My mom was coming out of the bathroom, and it was dark in the house, but there was suddenly an extra dark spot where she could see absolutely nothing whatsoever. And as she walked through it, she said it felt like she was walking through cobwebs. And she was kind of splitting and falling. She was kind of spitting and flailing her hand in front of her, like some would do when they walk through a big spider web. She said the funny thing was that she had the distinct feeling that the being was doing the exact same thing. She felt she had caught it off guard and that it did not expect her to be there. Well, that's all for night, kiddos. Happy hauntings to you all. Wow. All right. Oh, my God, we got calls. Okay. Let's go to the first one, and this is coming from area code 4530. You're on the air.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. I've been better. I'm just really bummed out. Yeah. Who am I talking to?
Yeah, kind of seems like you need a lot of positivity.
Yeah. Is this Sage?
And a little flushing.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, how are you doing?
It is.
Yeah,
I had a couple people wanting to hear a story. So I kind of felt like I might give you a little break and drop the big one. Yay. So then everyone could feel like I'm not bullshitting people.
BSing?
How about that?
Great. Try not to use the language. That's okay.
I will not. I will not.
Okay, go ahead.
And if I do, then say you're warned.
It's okay. The floor is yours.
So I've been, is everyone good with that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they are. Yep, they're
Is everyone okay with that in the chat?
Sure.
So I'm going to do the big one and then the big follow-up, the big one that, I've gone around and around in my head, and it's because it relates to one of my children. So I'm not a traditional kid at all, never was. Ran out of high school as fast as I could, and met up with some friends in another town, and was warned away from one man in one town. And I was sitting in a park, and a man walks up to me, and immediately the wind stops. It felt like the whole world stopped. Wow. And I met him, and he asked me where I was going to be, and I told him. And me and my friend started walking away, and he said that you can't be with him. I just laughed because no one tells me what to do. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't think anything about it. And I went on with my day. And I was I was 18 at the time.
Sure.
And he showed up. He had to break off his previous girlfriend, slid up next to me, and told me that we were going to be together. And that night, we laid in bed, and he talked about that he would not live to be 30.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked in his eyes, and I said, "You won't make it to 25."
Mm-hmm.
And he died at 24. We talked about the child that we were going to have, and we described the child perfectly. And the child looked exactly the way that we knew the child was going to be. We spent the first month together, and it was very weird and random. It felt like it was a movie. And then he had to move back to his town, which was in Washington. And I learned all about Tacoma on my own, which apparently has a lot of secrets I didn't know about. And I had a angel that was there that saved me. And so I learned to go in and out of surviving a very hard, abusive relationship with this man. That I had only known for 4 months. I got married not married, I got pregnant the first day I arrived in Tacoma. I got pregnant that night. After multiple months of abuse and him trying to kill me, I left. And he died. And now this is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
Not just all of that's crazy,
Right.
but he had a whole other life that no one told me about, and I still don't know. It's a very strange thing for me. I don't actually truly really know a lot of him, although I've spent a lot of time with his family. I've seen him. I saw him 3 months after he died in San Francisco. When I tried to chase after him, I couldn't catch up to him. And then when I was still pregnant with my daughter 2 months later, I found myself back in the tavern, and it wasn't a dream. I walked in, and the jukebox was playing our song, and there were 4 people sitting at our table. And I got very angry that they were sitting there because no one dared sat at our table. This was at the Providence, by the way. So that tavern was known for bikers, and it was our table. So you just didn't mess with your table. And as I'm walking by, one of them says, "We saved it for you." So I just kind of walk and sit down, and then he walks in the door, and he puts his helmet on the jukebox, and I get up, and I start to play pool, and I don't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, I do a bang shot, and he says, "That's my girl." And then I realize that he's dead, that this isn't real. And I shrug him off, and I said, "What are you doing? You're dead. What is this?" And he grabs his mug, and he throws it against the wall, and it becomes a picture. And it's me and my husband and my 2 children, and we're walking in a park. And he goes, "This is my hell. I can see you, and I can hear you, but I can't touch you." And he said, "I love you." And he walked out.
Wow.
And that was the first time that I saw him. And it was the most real thing that I've ever experienced in my life. I saw him over the crib. And then, something else came in, and it wasn't him. And I learned that there was an also negative force with a positive force. And there was a time that I couldn't tell one apart from the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, strangers on the street would stop me and tell me, you know, do you know what you have? I'm like, yeah, do you know how to get rid of it? Can you help me?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I was pregnant. I've shared this with some people, and they think that it was an alien abduction. Some people think that it was him saying goodbye, which I don't even know how that would be, because he showed up in my boyfriend's dreams afterwards that he didn't like. I don't know. Yeah, I've moved on, but there's something about him that I cannot. Everything about it was right, all the way down to his death.
Wow.
I knew him for less than 6 months. So I was 18.
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah, that was one of my biggest awakenings I had.
Yeah, no kidding. That's incredibly profound and powerful.
Yeah, like when I was like, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say. I got a lot to share. I don't know who to share it with. It opened the door to so much, just so much. I questioned my religion. I questioned reality. I questioned everything after that. Everything in existence. I was shunned. I was executed from my family. I was assumed. I was crucified. I was, you name it, I was, just because I was taken, transported, moved. I saw things. I saw UFOs. I saw things that didn't make any sense. I've seen spirits. I've seen shadow people. I've seen so many things after that absolutely make no sense at all. My children have seen them. My husband has seen them. My house is completely active consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I can say is that I concentrate on balance.
Wow.
Because I don't know.
Right.
I reached out to one of your chat friends because I wanted to know more about the little people, because I have kind of got to a dead end on all my other, places. I have to kind of go further.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you heard anything like that?
Well, oddly enough, Ra is in the chat room, and I know you had reached out to me and told me that it really resonated with you what Ra had to say, and he's in the chat room right now. I know he's really well versed in those as well.
Oh, I emailed him.
Oh, good. Okay, so you guys have been in touch.
I emailed him. Yeah, okay. I emailed him. Okay. I emailed him the same time I emailed you, which accidentally I emailed myself.
Yeah,
which I told you about.
Yeah.
But because I was so blown away, like I was like, oh my God, like he's saying the calling. My cord was wrapped around. They actually had to knock my mother out because I went up. And she didn't even touch me for 5 days, or more. I don't know. From what I understand, I got a call, or my mother got a call saying, do you want to come get her? Because we don't know what's wrong with her. Oh. She might as well die at home than in the hospital. Oh. And the other thing is that I know they took my blood. I know that I remember one of my parents taking me and monthly taking my blood. I was told that it was for asthma, but when I brought that up with my husband, he said that doesn't make any sense. The building that's in the city is still there. I remember the doctor, but then when I think back, it was only one chair in one building. and I screamed and cried, and I remember multiple nurses holding me down, and my parent begging me, and afterwards, buying me My Little Pony or the fairy that I would like because it was so good, and the manipulation was so strong with them. And I don't know what the blood was for. I have no idea.
Wow.
When I brought it up with them, they said it was so long they really couldn't remember. That's what I get with everything. They can't remember.
Yeah, well, I hear you.
With your guest in the chat room, just so he knows, I was raised on a walnut farm. Both of my grandfathers are botanists, and so is my husband. I draw trees, as I showed you.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I have I'm sorry, what?
I said they're beautiful. Very beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You made me cry when you said that.
Well,
Artists don't like to hear that, so
Well,
I don't consider myself an artist. That was from my
it's
fourth near-death, or my actual death experience that I had.
right. No, they look inspired. They don't look like just creative, circles and colors and stuff. They look like there's a flow and there's a meaning to every line in them. And I think you should really share them, because I know when I saw them, they really resonated with me, and I'm sure other people will.
Oh, when I sent them to you, I told you could put them on the show. Just if you could please not post them on Facebook, or so
Sure.
people can't.
Why don't we do that while you're on the phone right now? Hold on, since you're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me do this. And
So
ladies and
the purple one that I have, I drew to request protection, and also both of my children were sick, and I asked for them for the tree to heal what they could, and what they couldn't to give to me.
Okay, so the first one is on the screen now, and it's the pencil one.
And it's the purple tree.
Okay.
It's the Chiarian epilepsy tree.
Oh, okay.
And that hangs in my house.
Wow.
And that I drew for my children. They didn't know that at the time. And then the rest of them, besides the trees I'm aware of, I have one that I've actually finished a lot of them since I've sent them to you. But
okay.
then there's the star one that I sent you, which is my idea, or I don't know. I get downloads and I start just kind of going at it. So I have that. I saw that on a bat. I saw something very similar on another person that does regressions or something. It reminded me of it. The stars, at least.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of a nebula, but my ideas of nebulas are not what other people think they are.
Okay.
It's not, like born. Yeah, I think they're already existing civilizations. I think they're places that are already there. I think they're, just like black hole. I don't think that they're, going to suck you up and kill you and destroy you. I think that, you can time travel in them. They're something extremely advanced and, like wormholes. So, there's a lot we don't know that they're keeping from us.
Oh, sure. And I'm sure they don't know a lot. They don't know as much as they'd like to pretend either. So, but yeah, I think.
Oh, I actually disagree with that. I 100% disagree with that. Going to night school, I disagree with that.
Going to night school?
I was picked up and I went to night. Yeah, I was picked up and I went. I remember going to night school. I remember going and remembering numbers. I remember remembering like strings of codes. I remember being led to places. I remember sometimes being really afraid. I remember it like they come in like flashes, but it was night school, and after my brain surgery, it all came really fast, and some of it is so traumatic I can't help it.
Sure.
And so I have to relive it.
And by they,
and some of it I have to question. I'm sorry, go on.
Who is they though? Who is they? Like an extraterrestrial kind of thing?
Well, I wonder if it's the government.
Okay.
I honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, and it could
I mean,
be.
I literally had Bob Woods in my house under the assumption that he was a survey guy for Social Security disability, and he's head of MUFON.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was at my house for
That's
3 years, and I had no idea who he was. I don't read books, I'm not like I wasn't like invested in this. It was just my life.
sure. No,
I didn't know
understand.
this was like happening to everyone else.
No, I think it's.
None of my friends were coming and telling me that this was happening to them. They were like, "Oh my God, what did you do in your past life?" And I was like, "Past life? What are you talking about?
Right.
I didn't have a past life here. I was called here."
Oh, MCAT, thank you so much, brother.
And then I'm sorry, go on.
We just got a donation in the chat from MCAT, and he's just amazing. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank you so much, brother. That really helps a bunch. It'll help me get R&R
Thank
too.
you, MCAT. Thank you, MCAT.
Yeah, that's very sweet. But I'm sorry.
I love you, MCAT. I love you.
Yeah, we all love MCAT. He's just amazing. But,
Your chat room is just phenomenal. I mean, I haven't been inspired like this in forever.
I'm so
for a
glad.
long time.
That's wonderful. I hope that you'll continue to find your home here with us. I mean, it's great. You wouldn't believe how many of the people in that chat room have had near-death experiences and so many profound experiences. And yours is way up at the top of the wow meter, but still, I think everybody that's here is here because they were chosen to be here, and I was chosen to be here to do this. It's just really, really amazing.
Brent, when I came out and I started talking about it, because when I was in the hospital, I immediately remembered it and I started talking about it. They immediately put me on Valium, and a very high dosage Valium, and I've been highly drugged ever since.
Wow.
And so I have to purposely make sure that I'm meditating and I'm grounded. And I mean, they shaved down my C1. My Fro-Magnum is screwed. Monsanto is,
Sure.
it's Agent Orange. I'm second generation of Agent Orange is what I am.
Yeah.
So that's, I had military planes coming over my house all the time. My website was taken down that I sent you. And it can't just be, coincidence.
Right.
I could get VA if I wanted to, but I don't know if I want to.
Right. No, I think
I don't, it's just, it's genetic.
Sure. No, I agree. I think there's something pretty amazing going on around you, and hopefully at least you feel.
But what Ra was saying, like with that C1 and with everything, it's so profound on just how you laid everything out. And I'm really hoping that whatever I'm saying touches somebody out there, that they're not alone. And please come forward and talk, because this is very hard for me. No one in my family is going to support this. Right. No one.
Sure.
Completely Baptist family. Oh. No one's supporting what I'm saying. I'm completely alone in this. And I'm okay with it at this point, because I was never supported anyways.
Sure.
So this is my truth and it's my life. And I want to say, on the times when you're struggling or you're having a hard time, maybe it's time that we step up and actually start calling to help you, so you don't have to actually do the show, so we can help you.
Oh, I appreciate it a whole bunch.
So,
thank you so much.
You have a great night, okay, Brent?
All right, my lady, thank you for calling in. It's great to hear from you.
And I love you guys all so much.
All right. Take care, Sage.
Bye.
All right, wonderful call. It's great. We got one more call here. Let's get to this one. This one's Diane. How you doing, Diane?
Hi, back again.
Well, welcome
I
back.
finally got the number. Yay.
Yay. Okay, good.
So, hey, and you can hear me on it and everything okay?
Yeah, hearing you good. Yep. It's doing good.
Hey, I hear you good too.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. Now there is no, I can actually hear you, so.
Oh, good. Okay. Excellent.
Hey, so, yeah, it sounds like Sage is a sister.
Yeah.
Boy, I had a lot to say too when I first came, Sage. Believe me, and I've said quite a lot. And I have a feeling you're going to say quite a lot.
Yep. Yeah. It's really funny that there's so many similarities between so many people. It's really cool.
Yeah, because really a lot of that, well, I've still got David hanging around. Sage, I got somebody kind of hangs around me too. I don't know if yours still hangs around, but mine keeps showing up, and I talk to him quite often. But I have somebody from my past that shows up. So just letting you know, it's not that strange. Not in here it isn't anyway. I wanted to say, anybody hear about the sightings in Oregon? We think we're getting some soft disclosure, triangular-shaped hovering craft over Oregon.
Oh, wow.
People have got some really good pictures that look pretty darn
convincing.
Pretty darn real.
Oh, good. Good. I haven't seen those. You send me a link to that?
And yeah. I gotta remember who I saw that on. I will look it up for you and try and send you the link. But there's that, and also on the same one, they also had. Apparently, LA got a swarm of UFOs over their heads.
Wow.
Somebody took it. Looked like a constellation.
Oh, geez. That's pretty profound.
Then in a, I can't remember what country it was. It was a European country. They got some very unique sightings there, too. So there were a lot of sightings just recently. Now, you got to remember it's a new moon. So during a new moon, it's kind of easier to see things because there isn't that much in the light isn't blocking the sky. I mean, the moon, when it's shining, and the lights of the city and everything can block things out. But this was very clear. Some of the photos were very clear.
Wow.
So, and some of the photos were daytime.
Oh, really? Wow.
So
that's pretty powerful.
The ones over Oregon were daytime dots or towards evening. So, and some of the ones that showed up kind of look like what I've been seeing. They just look like a streak of light that comes and goes. So it's been really a time for sightings. So something must be up. Something must be getting ready to go on if all this is going on.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we're getting sightings all over the place.
Yeah, I was doing a podcast with a guy from Australia. I was doing a podcast with him, named Cade Moya, and he has a podcast called Believe out of Australia. And he and I were talking, and he believes that we're on our way to disclosure. Like the media is starting to prep for us for a bit of disclosure, and I hope he's right. I hope that that's the case, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I think what I think I'm feeling going on here, because sometimes I can see down the trail.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it. I see down the trail a little bit, and a lot of times I'm right. I mean, some of the things I said 25 years ago are coming true now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think they're going to do is they're going to start soft disclosure.
Oh, okay.
with stuff like that. There's just going to be obvious sightings. And then they're going to say, oh, don't worry about it. That's just us testing our craft. Don't worry about it. And they're going to downplay like, oh, don't worry. You should not be upset about this.
Right.
This is,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, that's the soft disclosure thing.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm going, yeah, they must be getting ready for something.
Maybe
They're letting
so.
us see it.
Maybe so, my lady.
And, and let me see, was there anything else? Oh, yeah, just encouraging Sage to not worry about what you have to tell us. We are not going to be the ones that are going to sit here and judge the heck out of anybody that comes in here. Honestly, this chat room is the coolest chat room ever. I love each and every one of you, except for that troll. I'm going to kick your butt. Okay, the one that thumbs down. We're going to find you, and I'm going to kick your butt.
Sure.
No, I'm really not going to kick your butt.
All right.
But yeah, okay. So just letting you know. Okay, you have a great day.
All right, my lady. Thanks for calling in. It's great to hear from you.
Have a great night, folks. I'll talk to you in chat.
Okay. Good night, Dan. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess we're over an hour already. Time really flies. Even when I'm feeling like garbage, it's flying. The portal is an anomaly of time. But I love you all. I hope you have a great night. Sorry my energy level's real low. I'm sure I'm going to feel fine in just a little bit here. Just got to work some things out. So I will be back, of course, tomorrow night with more of the Bedtime Stories from Beyond, guys. But on Tuesday, I don't think I'm going to be able to do one. I may pre-record one and put it up for you guys tomorrow. That'll play on Tuesday because I have to be out of town. So we'll get something rolling for you guys. But anyway, I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Take care, everybody. I love you bunches, and I'll be back tomorrow. Good night.